Hi everyone, welcome to Must Read Monday. My name is Dabney. I'm the young adult librarian with the Twin Lakes Libraries and I use they, them pronouns. For today's episode, I'm going to be talking to you about some books that revolve around midwinter and the solstice and kind of wintry traditions like around the world. And I think the next video I do is going to be more focused on some holiday books. And I went back through last year's Must Read Monday videos because I didn't want to repeat stuff I'd already done. And surprisingly enough, I haven't covered any of these books before, so this is exciting. So without further ado, let's get started. The inspiration for this selection of books is The Darkest Rising by Susan Cooper. This is my copy of the book. The library has copies. And this is actually a middle grades book, but I really love it and I try to read it or listen to it every year around midwinter, which is December 21st. So let me read you the back. On the midwinter day that is his 11th birthday, Will Stanton discovers a special gift, that he is the last of the old ones, immortals dedicated throughout the ages to keeping the world from domination by the forces of evil, the dark. He is plunged at once into a quest for the 6 magical signs that will one day aid the old ones in the final battle between the dark and the light. Thereafter, for the 12 days of Christmas while the dark is rising, life for Will, although outwardly normal, is strangely wonderful as he is drawn through terror and delight. And this is the part of The Dark is Rising sequence, so there are 4 books in that, and let's see, I think there's 5 books in that. It's like Over Sea, Under Stone, The Dark is Rising, Green Witch, The Grey King, and Silver on the Tree. So I really enjoy these, mostly because I like that it gets into sort of a lot of different traditions revolving around the solstice and Christmas, kind of stretching back, like, pre-Christianity with Christianity, just kind of a lot going on here, and lots of magic, which I love, and I love kind of getting into, like, legend and lore and seeing how it all sort of comes together. And I don't know, this one just always gets me into the vibe of this time of year. So yeah, check it out. It's a short one, and I do like the audiobooks a lot. This is one I've read like a while ago, and I absolutely loved it. It's Midwinter Blood by Marcus Sedgwick, and let me just read you the description, because this is one that's like, it's like really twisty. In 2073, on the remote and secretive island of Blessed, where rumor has it that no one ages and no children are born, a visitor arrives. He is greeted warmly, but something is wrong. Something is hidden on the far side of the island, something that, as if in a dream, he cannot reach. And so it is that under the light of the waxing and waning moon, 7 stories unfold. The story of an archaeologist who unearths a mysterious artifact, of an airman who finds himself far from home, of a painter, a ghost, a vampire, and a Viking, and the story of a love so primal and passionate that it slips the bonds of time. This is the story of Midwinter Blood. So like I said, I don't really remember the details of this one, like, at all, except it was really great, and it definitely took me in a lot of different directions. Like, so even though I can't remember the story, the impact stayed with me, that it was kind of like unlike anything I'd ever read before. So I highly encourage you to pick it up if you think that summary sounds interesting. It does definitely get into midwinter and kind of through all these different times. So it's like part 1 is 2073, part 2 is 2011, let's see, part 3, 1944, Part 4, 1902, Part 5, 1848, Part 6, the 10th century, and then Part 7, the unknown. And it's also kind of going through different moons, so like the blood moon, the snow moon, the hunter's moon, which are all like, if you look up the different full moons for each month, you can see they're all called different moons. So yes, this one, very cool. This is a recently read book for me. Actually, I've been listening to this series, the Tiffany Aching series by Terry Pratchett. It's on, some of them are on Hoopla, some of them are on Libby, and I've been really enjoying it. They're just witchy and lighthearted and wholesome, and they're just really amusing, and I love the characters. So this is part of his Discworld series. This is the first time I've kind of read standalone Terry Pratchett, just Terry Pratchett, because he wrote Good Omens with Neil Gaiman, which is one of my favorite books. So, just in a summary, the Tiffany Aching series is about a young witch named Tiffany, and about her discovering her powers and training and coming into her powers, and the challenges she encounters along the way. So you do need to read books 1 and 2 first before you get to Wintersmith. But I picked this one because the events in this book do revolve around the changing of the season of, autumn leaving, winter taking over, the solstice, and what happens when Tiffany inadvertently inserts herself into this, elemental, worlds of elementals and gods, and she kind of inserts herself into the story by accident, and kind of the fallout from that. But it's great. It'll definitely get you in the wintry mood and hopefully make you smile a lot, because I certainly did. Okay, this is another one I listened to recently. It's large, it's an adult book, but I feel like older teen readers, you can definitely read this. It's not really got any content that I haven't seen in young adult books, so just FYI. I mean, it is pretty big, but I listened to it and really liked it. I like the author Rebecca Roanhorse, so it's Black Sun. This is the first book, I think in a duology, and then the second book is going to come out next year. Yes, book 1 of the Between Earth and Sky trilogy, inspired by the civilizations of the pre-Columbian Americas and woven into a tale of celestial prophecies, political intrigue, and forbidden magic. A god will return when the earth and sky converge under the black sun. In the holy city of Tova, the winter solstice is usually a time for celebration and renewal, but this year it coincides with a solar eclipse, a rare celestial event prescribed by the sun priest as an unbalancing of the world. Meanwhile, a ship launches from a distant city bound for Tova and set to arrive on the solstice. The captain of the ship, Shiala, is a disgraced teak whose song can calm the waters around her as easily as it can warp a man's mind. Her ship carries one passenger, described as harmless. The passenger, Serapio, is a young man, blind, scarred, and cloaked in destiny. As Shiala well knows, when a man is described as harmless, he usually ends up being a villain. And yes, so this one is kind of told from multiple points of view, from Serapio and Shiala, and then the sun priest, who is named, I totally read this and I can't remember, Nara. yeah, and so just it's really interesting, like watching their stories converge. It's kind of told in like present day and flashbacks. So at the beginning of each chapter, it'll tell you like whose point of view it is, what the date is for that part, and also how many days until convergence. And so this one definitely, I loved the world building and the characters and learning about the mythology and religion and all this stuff that's going on, and kind of like this like slow building horror as you're getting closer to the convergence, and you're like, you don't know what's going to happen, but you know it's probably going to be really bad. And then it's sort of like the book has its like climax on the solstice, on the convergence, and definitely leaves you wanting to read more. I thought it was just brilliant. So if you're looking for kind of a longer read to sink your teeth into this winter, I recommend Black Sun. Okay, let me get into another sort of big book. This one is also an adult book. I read it or listened to it, one or the other, a couple years ago. It's Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Let's see. Miriam is the daughter and granddaughter of moneylenders, but her father's inability to collect his debts has left his family on the edge of poverty until Miriam takes matters into her own hands. Hardening her heart, the young woman sets out to claim what is owed and soon gains a reputation for being able to turn silver into gold. When an ill-advised boast draws the attention of the king of the Sterric, grim fey creatures who seem more ice than flesh, Miriam's fate and that of 2 kingdoms will be forever altered. Set an impossible challenge by the nameless king, Miriam unwittingly spins a web that draws in a peasant girl, Wanda, and the unhappy daughter of a local lord who plots to wed his child to the dashing young Tsar. But Tsar Mirnatius is not what he seems, and the secret he hides threatens to consume the lands of humans and Sterric alike. Torn between deadly choices, Miriam and her 2 unlikely allies embark on a desperate quest that will take them to the limits of sacrifice, power, and love. Channeling the vibrant heart of myth and fairy tale, Spinning Silver weaves a multi-layered magical tapestry that readers will want to return to again and again. So yeah, this is kind of like a fairy tale retelling set in the winter. So, you know, prepare for lots of ice and snow and hard times. But I really enjoyed the characters and the world building and the myths and fairy tales that all got spun together in this. So yeah, it's kind of big but really good, and definitely something to like capture your imagination and take you to this whole new place. Alright, then we've got a couple more to get to. This one I'm currently reading, The Wren Hunt by Mary Watson, so that's where I'm at right now. And the reason I picked this up is because the hunting of the wren is sort of like this folk tradition, kind of like combination of like folklore and like religious traditions in like England and Ireland and other places. But this book is set in Ireland. So if you want to look up The Hunting of the Wren, I had never really heard of this. It's not something we do, as far as I know, in the United States, but when I'd read The Dark is Rising, it's briefly referenced in that, and I thought, like, you know, is this like really a thing people do? And it is, so definitely Google that. Alright, once a year, Wren is chased through the woods near her rural Ireland hometown in a warped version of a childhood game. Her pursuers belong to the Judges, a group in control of an ancient, powerful magic they stole from her own people, the Augurs. But they know nothing of her real reality. they learn the truth, the game would surely turn deadly. Though she knows the risk, Wren also goes on the hunt, taking a dangerous undercover assignment as an intern at enemy headquarters of the Harkness Foundation. If she can uncover a long-buried secret, she can save her family and end the judge's reign once and for all. But as the web of lies, deceit, and betrayal thickens around Wren, she hurtles towards a truth that threatens to consume her and reveal who she really is. Not only has she come to the attention of the powerful judge, Casa Harkness, but she is also falling dangerously in love with the one person she shouldn't. And she may need to decide which she'd rather lose, her heart or her life. So far, I'm really liking this. It is definitely taking me in places I didn't really think it would go. And I will say, like, the beginning is honestly terrifying with these, like, 4 village, like, well, I say they're boys, but, like, everyone in this book is, like, I think around 18 or something, like, technically out of high school. So yeah, being kind of like, you know, a teen girl chased through the woods by 4 teen boys honestly sounds terrifying. And just like the kind of looming threat that's always around Wren, where she like never really feels safe, and like her people don't feel safe and they're like under attack. So this one is just kind of tangentially tied in with like the solstice midwinter theme, except that it does start on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, St. Stephen's Day, and the hunting of the wren. And but yeah, it does have like its own mythology and world building that I thought kind of tied in with these others really well. And one thing I'll say is the augurs have like places of power called Minotaur. So if you've ever seen Teen Wolf and they go on and on about the Minotaur, I thought that was just like a Teen Wolf thing. I didn't know that was like a thing. So another thing to Google. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. And I found out also that this is a duology, so I need to get the second book after I finish this one. Okay, we've got maybe one more book. This one I listened to pretty much all day yesterday. It's East by Edith Pateau. I'm sorry, this is really, there's like a glare. This is a book that I've been aware of for a while. It came out in 2003, and it's always sort of been in the back of my mind that maybe one day I'll get to it. So I listened to the audiobook, loved it, and so there's also a sequel to this, West, which I haven't read yet. Okay, Rose has always been different. Since the day she was born, it was clear she had a special fate. Her superstitious mother keeps the unusual circumstances of Rose's birth a secret, hoping to prevent her adventurous daughter from leaving home. But she can't suppress Rose's true nature forever. So when an enormous white bear shows up one cold autumn evening and asks teenage Rose to come away with it, in exchange for health and prosperity for her ailing family, she readily agrees. Rose travels on the bear's broad back to a distant and empty castle where she is nightly joined by a mysterious stranger. In discovering his identity, she loses her heart and finds her purpose and realizes her journey has only just begun. So this book, if I remember right, is like really big and it's really epic. And let me see, I'm looking something up real fast for y'all. And it's based on like some, you know, like stories, like folklore and mythology. So yeah, fairy tales too. East of the Sun, West of the Moon, I think is like the inspiration for this. It's a Norwegian fairy tale. Though, and it says on here, I'm looking on Wikipedia, y'all. It says related to Cupid and Psyche, also Beauty and the Beast, which as I was reading this, I was thinking about those too. So hey, nice to have my thoughts validated. And yeah, it's so like that kind of fairy tale tie-in is interesting to research. But this one is set not necessarily with the solstice or midwinter, but it does involve Rose going with the white bear to, she ends up going like a lot of places and traveling a lot of places with the bear, and like later on her own ending up going all the way like up to like the top of the world, the Arctic Circle, and meeting like Inuit people, and it's just really interesting. I think it's not really given a year that it's set, but it's around the time of like when the printing press was being like invented and used. So just as like a point of reference. But I thought it was just like a beautiful story. I really, it's told from multiple characters' points of view. I think Rose, the white bear, a troll queen, Rose's father, and her brother. And so yeah, it's pretty epic and just really lovely, I thought. Yeah, it like definitely makes you feel like getting into like this kind of wintry, magical mindset, especially as Rose ends up traveling to the north. So I really enjoyed listening to this one. I listened to it yesterday. I went on like a 3-hour hike in the woods and listened to this the whole time, and then came home, did a bunch of cooking and listened to it. So highly recommend. And then I think that's going to be it, except I will mention that this is one I haven't read yet, but it's on my to read. I've got it checked out right now. It's Echo North by Joanna, Ruth Meyer. So this is another one that's set kind of like in the winter and with magic, and I think possibly shape-shifting, who knows? So I'm looking forward to it. So I think a lot of these, most of these kind of have like a European setting, with the exception of Black Sun and Wintersmith, because this is set in Discworld, so out there. But yeah, it's just kind of cool to see these common threads of like solstice and midwinter and magic coming all together. So hopefully you can check some of these out and read them and enjoy them. And I'll have notes about where you can find these. They're all in our collection, but if you want to read an ebook or listen to an audiobook, I'll let you know where you can find that. Yeah, I hope y'all are having a great week. If you come by the library, we've got programs after school every day this week, and I've got a crafting video that'll be up on Wednesday. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.